Welcome back to episode 3 of the Final Drive podcast. I'm your host, McCord Grice, and we got Hayes, Ty, Croc, and Caden all back with us again. And obviously the NFL draft just finished up, or I guess a couple days ago just finished up, but we're still in that process of getting excited for who's on which team and just getting, at least for some teams that's the case. Other teams are very upset and are not excited for the season that's going to come up with the rookies. And that team that I'm thinking of course, is the Green Bay Packers, my favorite team by far. And, you know, they have had one of the worst drafts that I've ever been a part of. And there's not much more I need to say. But except for this. So here we go. April, let me put you guys in the mood right here. Ready? April 23rd, 2005, right? The Green Bay Packers selected Aaron Rodgers with the 24th pick. With Brett Favre on the finishing stretch of his career, the Packers stunned the crowd at the Javits Center by taking Brett Favre's successor. In 2007, the Packers made it to the NFC Championship game, but they lost on an interception, which would be the last throw Favre would make wearing the green and gold. My parents were at that game. Tough. Aaron Rodgers took over the following season, and we know what his record has been since. After leading the Packers to 4 NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl, the most recent coming last season, after coming very close, Rodgers on the last stretch of his career and desperately needed weapons around him to make another push at the Lombardi Trophy. Of course, the Packers did not draft any weapons around him and drafted Jordan Love in the first round. And now I've seen Aaron Rodgers with a chip on his shoulder. And that comes back in 2010 when the Packers had lost the season prior to the Cardinals and came back and won the Super Bowl. Now, will Rodgers lead his team to victory with a chip on his shoulder, or will the Packers fall short like they have in previous years because of the lack of talent around him? That is the question, and I'll open it up to you guys. What do you got? What do y'all think about the Packers?
Well, McCord, as you said there, the Packers did draft Aaron Rodgers to replace Favre, but you know what they also did draft that draft? A wide receiver.
Yeah.
that could have helped the Packers a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
You see, taking A.J. Dillon on day 2 when the team needed a wide receiver, it's not the smartest move. You got Jamal Williams, and you've already got, one of the best running backs in the league in Aaron Jones. I just do not understand what the Packers were thinking.
Here,
Okay, go ahead.
Let me set you guys up here, okay? When you think of the Green Bay Packers, what are the 2 strongest positions? You probably think of Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, and you probably think of Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams in the backfield, right? And, of course, in the first 2 rounds, you draft both of those positions. And I can't understand how that makes any sense whatsoever. And Packers Twitter and Instagram was quite a place to be a part of after the second round because, God, there were more angry Packer fans than I've ever seen, ever. And, man, that was – I mean – just I don't understand. I don't have words. I'm stuttering over myself because I don't know what to say.
I don't think anyone really understands what they were thinking. I mean, in such a loaded wide receiver class, again, they just did not take one wide receiver.
I can't understand it. Well, we did actually sign a receiver. I don't know his name. He's from Michigan State.
Yeah.
Rel Stewart Jr. Yeah, there we go.
He's not going to help the team.
He's a game changer,
Packers.
Caden. He's the next Antonio Brown.
No, he's not.
Hey, that's sarcasm, buddy.
So I guess, of course, we've talked about the Packers plenty in the last 2 episodes here. I guess moving it away, Hayes was talking about the Bengals before the show. Hayes, what did you think of the Bengals draft?
So I thought the Bengals had a really good draft. Obviously, we got our quarterback of the future in superstar Joe Burrow. We added to our receiver core with T. Higgins. We added some extra depth on the defense, and we got a linebacker. And I think either the 3rd or the 4th round. His name's like Akeem. I don't remember his last name, but he was a steal there. Like, I watched some film on him, and he looked really good. And so I thought the Bengals had one of the strongest drafts this year.
Yeah, I agree with you that the Bengals had a great draft. I think Joe Burrow's going to have fun next year. Like the pieces that he has around him, you have Joe Mixon, AJ Green, what's his name? Tyler Boyd, John Ross, and now they add T. Higgins to that. They're going to have one of the most dangerous offenses in the NFL next year.
Yeah, one thing that the Bengals still need to improve on, though, is their offensive line. They still have one of the weakest O-lines in the NFL, so Joe Burrow might have to do some scrambling in the pocket this year.
I agree with you there, Carter, but
You're
forgetting that we drafted you
Packers
forget that we drafted Jonah Williams last year, and he hasn't yet to play a game in the NFL because he's been hurt. So we have him coming in, and I mean, we got rid of a bunch of guys. And then we did draft, I think, 1 or 2 offensive linemen in the later rounds. So hopefully it should be better than it was last year and years prior.
Yeah, I feel like the Falcons did a good job filling their needs in the draft. They didn't go for the best players available, but they instead went to draft positions of need, like in the secondary and D-line. I feel like Marlon Davidson in the second round is going to be an absolute steal for the Falcons. He was a monster alongside Derek Brown last year for the Tigers, and I feel like he should have been drafted in the first round based off of his production. But, I mean, the A.J. Terrell pick is going to be interesting just to see how he plays out. But I hope he plays well. And the late round picks were more depth picks, not really going to have much of an impact. So
besides the Bengals offense, there was another offense I kind of wanted to highlight on. The Denver Broncos. They have made some major moves this offseason, bringing in Melvin Gordon to pair along Phillip Lindsay, and the drafting of I think it's KJ Hamler and Jared. Did they get Jared Jeudy?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did.
Those two, and that's just, I feel like with Drew Lock and those backs and those receivers and Cortland Sutton, that's going to be a scary offense next year.
Do you think Drew Lock, what do you think of him? Is he going to be good enough next season?
I think Drew Lock is going to make a major step up next year. I feel like for his first year, he wasn't really handed like the full set of keys. I feel like now it's his team, and he's going to step up and kind of lead.
Yeah. Were there any other teams that you guys were really impressed by at their draft? I thought the Bills were one of them.
Yeah, I was extremely impressed by the Chargers in the draft. I feel like they got some late round steals, especially with KJ Hill in the 7th round, when most people had him projected going in the 4th or 5th round. And they also got some good picks in Kenneth Murray, and I feel like Herbert's going to be a great fit in their offense. So I definitely feel like the Chargers improved vastly from the draft.
This is a little bit off topic, but I want to touch back on what Ty said earlier about Jerry Jeudy going 15th overall to the Broncos. I totally agree with you. The Broncos are going to have one of the most potent offenses in the NFL, but did they make the right decision there? I personally think that CeeDee Lamb would have been a better fit in their offense. They have a glaring need for a slot receiver, and CeeDee Lamb, when he lined up in the slot, it was shown to be very effective for Oklahoma last year.
Hey, Caden, do you know who KJ Hamler is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Jeudy played
for
the
Penn
majority
State.
of his
He's super
snaps.
fast.
Jeudy
Yeah,
played the
so
majority of
where do
his
you
snaps
think
in the
he could
slot,
play
right?
us alongside Cortland Sutton and Jared Jeudy?
Well, to be honest, I kind of forgot they drafted him.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Jeudy had most of his snaps in the slot, didn't he? I mean, like, I know he was Alabama's best receiver.
Yeah, I would definitely feel like Judy's more of a speed guy than Lamb. I feel like Lamb is the more physical receiver, but I feel like Jeudy would fit their offense.
What I'm trying to say, I'm just really high on CeeDee Lamb. And
I feel like the Broncos offense, it's going to be full of versatile receivers next year that can line up anywhere, and I feel like they're going to be fun to watch alongside those backs and a young quarterback. So I think they're a team to look out for.
Caden, I agree with you that I feel like Lamb is going to be the better receiver than Jeudy. but CD also got drafted to a place that already has an established wide receiver one. And Jeudy can compete with for that spot on the Broncos with Sutton. But I feel like the Broncos were eyeing Jeudy all along, and I doubt they expected CD to fall to them. And so I think they just went with what they were planning on going with in Jeudy.
I think that was a better fit for the Broncos too. I feel like that Jeudy kind of fits better with that Denver scene, where I feel like CD would have fit better on some other teams, but I feel like the Denver wasn't really looking for CD. Their guy was Jared Jeudy all along.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I was gonna ask you guys, do you think the Cowboys made the right move in taking CeeDee Lamb when they already have a solid receiver core, when they could have taken Caleb Von Chase on? Because
Well,
they
I
really need a
think-
pass rusher.
I think whatever way you look at it, if CeeDee Lamb falls to your team and you could use one more receiver, I mean, because they had Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper, if you add CeeDee Lamb to that, I mean, you're just really improving your wide receivers. And for him to fall to the Cowboys that far, I feel like of course they're going to take him.
I think they did make the right move. You could kind of just see it when Jerry Jones was in his spaceship, like when he fell to him. I mean, it was a very easy decision. I mean, there was no hesitation on his face. It just sort of looked like he's here. Like this guy could change the league, really. Like let's take that risk if there even is a risk there. I think it was the right pick for him.
So
The only thing I have to say about that is last year the Cowboys, they had the 18th ranked defense in the league, and 4 of their top 8 defensive players, they're gone now. I heard this on the First Take podcast yesterday. So when CeeDee Lamb fell to them, they chose to draft him instead of drafting somebody they really need.
Mm-hmm.
So next year, I think they're going to go from having a below-average defense to having one of the worst defenses in the league.
I mean, they got Diggs to replace Jones. I mean, that's just one.
Yeah, and they also got Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma to fortify their D-line a little bit.
Yeah.
So
McCord, you were talking about the Bill. I heard you mention the Bills earlier. So do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, yeah, they had a lot of good guys, I think, fall to them, and then they also addressed some needs. I wanted to point out first, I like the Jake Fromm pick. There are a lot of people that seem to hate that pick, and I get it. Jake Fromm is not in the upper tier of quarterbacks that came with his draft. But that was just one pick that I thought was really smart. The one pick that really stood out to me, though, was the A.J. Epineza pick. I really like what he brings to the Bills, and I think he's really going to help that defense, especially with some older guys that are either retiring or are on the last kind of legs of their career. With guys like I know the middle linebacker, the defensive line, and they definitely address those needs, which I was really impressed by. So, and whenever they were making a pick, I was talking with you guys during the draft, and they kept making like the right decisions, which some teams didn't do, and I thought that was really good of them.
Another quarterback that was selected, going from Jake Fromm. I feel like the Eagles' selection of Jalen Hurts, at least to me, I feel like it really fits the Eagles well. I mean, Carson Wentz he's been an injury-prone quarterback most of his career, and to have a guy that you can rely on to come in when someone's injured, like Jalen Hurts, like when he did with Tua in the SEC championship.
SEC, yeah.
Yeah. To have another QB that can come in and win you ball games, and I feel like he's a young, versatile player that can really like impact the game if anything happens to win. So I thought that was a good pick. But what do you guys think?
And I'll tell you what, the one thing that I wanted to mention is there are no 2 people that you could make Caden more angry by are Tua and Jalen Hurts, who constantly destroy Georgia. But no, I actually agree with you. There were, especially EDP, was not very happy with the Eagles.
EDP.
I just think I agree with you. The Eagles can use him in a lot of different ways, and he showcased that at Oklahoma and Alabama. He's a fast guy. He's a tough guy. He can make the throw on the run. And I know it's been said a million times already, but just the Taysom Hill comparison is obviously there. The Eagles could definitely use him like a Taysom Hill. And even just to use him as an experiment, like I think it's great for the Eagles just to try something new with the receiving weapons that they have. They're looking as like one of the stronger teams heading into next season.
Yeah, I really like I know a lot of people were dissing on the Eagles based off their draft, not getting a receiver right away. But I really like the trade of Marquise Goodwin going to the Eagles. I feel like that's really going to impact their offense and help them a lot.
You can't forget they did take Jalen Reagor though, which definitely helped. But yeah, that's a great point though. That Marquise Goodwin trade that just happened. And go ahead, Will.
There were a few trades like that I thought were like decently significant, but then they kind of slid under the water, especially the Trent Williams trade. Like I feel like that was not getting as much coverage as it needed to because I mean like a few years ago he was one of the top. He's a left tackle, right?
Yeah, He still is one of the top left tackles.
He was one of the top left tackles in the league, and I mean like he just got traded to the reigning NFC champions, who could always use the extra O-line help. So I mean like,
well, it's due to Staley's retirement, but I completely agree with you. That should be covered more. He's definitely a difference maker and can really help them kind of return to where they were last year, if not even make them better.
Yeah, that's a great point. There were a lot of trades that happened. I want to go back to that Marquise Goodwin trade though. Going into the draft, the Eagles were not. Their receiving corps was a joke.
It was abysmal. It was abysmal.
So bad, and just I feel like leaving after the draft is over. They're one of the stronger teams, maybe even in the NFC with Jalen Reagor, with Marquise Goodwin. Maybe not. I'm maybe not one of the stronger, but just they made a lot of improvements.
McCord, I don't know if they're one of the stronger receiving corps, but they definitely are one of the faster receiving corps with Reagor and Marquise Goodwin. So
and Deshaun Jackson.
Pretty interesting. Yeah, and Deshaun Jackson. So
what I see when y'all talk about speed is a lot of injury-prone receivers. Deshaun Jackson and Marquise Goodwin have been
not wrong
a lot of their career. So, I mean, last year the Eagles had a ton of injuries on their receiving core, and I could totally see it happening again.
Brock, anything's better than just Alshon Jeffrey, though. I mean,
Aguilar,
Nelson Aguilar.
Nelson terrible.
Like, come on, you can't say that those guys are any better than Reagor, Goodwin, and Jackson. I mean, come on, they did improve in the receiver department.
Yeah, that's more or less the point that I was trying to make. Is Yeah. What were you gonna say, Ken?
Oh, I wanted to touch back on the Jalen Hurts draft. I don't agree with you. I do not think it was a good pick. And if I'm Carson Wentz, I would demand a trade right now, because by them drafting Jalen Hurts as high as they did, that tells me that they're not sold on Carson Wentz, and he's not their franchise guy.
Let me interrupt you there. Do you think part of the reason they would have drafted him was because of Carson Wentz's injury history, therefore he wouldn't be? I mean, they just traded his backup who won them a Super Bowl, Nick Foles, so why wouldn't they want to replace another backup that's talented that could step in for that injury?
It tells me that they don't believe in him.
Well, I don't think they don't believe in him. I just don't think they believe in his health.
Yeah, they don't believe in his body to hold up. I mean, I agree with you, Caden, but then I also disagree because I think it was a good pick in terms of to be Wentz's backup, but it was not a good pick to be the Taysom Hill archetype because he's come out and said multiple times that he is a QB. I mean, it's like Lamar. He says he's a QB. He doesn't want to change positions. I don't think he would like to be in that Taysom Hill role. So yeah, those are my opinions on him.
Well, I also think Carson Wentz shouldn't be offended. The Eagles are still saying, "You're our guy. You're our number one." They're just bringing in extra help. I mean, they're just bringing in a guy that can probably make differences. They could bring in like a Taysom Hill that could still play quarterback. Or if Carson Wentz gets hurt. So they're adding that extra versatility where they just traded Nick Foles. So
Are we going to ignore the fact that the depth chart now says Wentz Hurts?
It's ironic.
True. That's true. Which I guess goes right to Ty's point, is that's exactly why they drafted him. It's in case he does get hurt, they have Jalen Hurts to come in for him. But
I just don't think that they would use that high of a draft pick on that talented of a player just for him to ride the bench until Carson Wentz gets hurt.
He was more than likely going to ride the
Gets
bench
hurt.
wherever he went. Like, where would you have seen him going where he wouldn't ride the bench?
Actually, with all the talent that's in the league right now, maybe in Las Vegas with the Raiders, they don't really have a good quarterback situation.
Yeah, if they don't believe in Carr, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of another quarterback situation, what do you guys think about the Cam Newton sweepstakes?
I
Well,
don't really see much steam picking up for him. So, I mean, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see.
yeah, that the Patriots rumors have pretty much been, I think killed here with the reports
See,
that
but
they're
They said they were 100% out on him.
yeah.
The thing with the Pats is that they just didn't draft a quarterback.
Mhm.
And I mean, like, do we really think they're going to roll with Jarrett Stidham instead of going out and getting a Cam Newton? I mean, like,
apparently Bill loves him.
fair enough. And I mean,
Then again, we haven't really seen Jared Stidham since he's been training under Tom Brady and just basically been training. I mean, we saw the product of Tom Brady's backups, Jacoby Brissett and Jimmy Garoppolo, kind of come in and kind of hold their own for a little bit. So I don't know if Stidham's the permanent replacement. I think he's their guy for this year, though.
Yeah, but and if he's not the guy, then I think Belichick and Kraft are prepared to just they're just prepared to tank for a quarterback in the draft if Stidham's not the guy. Which, like Ty said, mentoring under the greatest quarterback of all time, you're gonna learn some things, and having Jimmy Garoppolo come out of New England and Jacoby Brissett, who are both starting caliber and Super Bowl quarterbacks. You never know. And I think it's going to be really interesting to watch the Patriots this season for more than a couple reasons. But I agree with Ty there. But yeah.
I just don't know where Cam would fit in the league if he doesn't go to New England.
I mean, I could also see him going to the Raiders. Like Caden said, they're kind of in that situation where they kind of need somebody to like kind of sell tickets and come in at quarterback and like almost put on a show like Vegas is. And I feel like Cam would kind of fit a Vegas persona and kind of draw a crowd. Even if he doesn't end up winning the starting job, I feel like he could kind of draw a crowd, kind of bring in some fans.
Yeah, I completely agree. He definitely has that Vegas personality.
Definitely. I think Vegas is definitely the fit. But besides Vegas, I'm struggling to find a place where he really fits in. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. So another thing that I wanted to talk about, going off of like the free agent quarterback market, was the Saints signing Jameis Winston.
I personally, as a Saints fan, I don't technically understand it, but I trust our management on whatever they're going to do. I mean, we did draft a quarterback that's basically another Taysom Hill, so having those two kind of back there, I figured we weren't in the Jameis market at all. But apparently he turned down a bigger offer elsewhere to come kind of just – I think he's just going to come to the Saints for 1 year and basically just train under Drew Brees, because that's what it sounds like. Maybe get a couple reps here and there, but I don't think it's anything long-term for the Saints, and I think it's just kind of he wanted to come train for a year and kind of better himself.
I think it's similar to the Steelers. I can't remember who said it, but someone said that Jameis would fit well with the Steelers, and I really agree with that, because I think the Saints and Steelers are in at least similar positions. You got older quarterbacks that are historically great, and Jameis could have fit either place. But I think him going to the Saints and picking them really says something that I think Jameis gets a lot of flack just generally. 30 interceptions is tough. But I think just him doing this shows me that he really thinks that he can become a stud in the league, and that if he works hard enough, I think he believes that he can get the starting caliber job, whether it's in New Orleans or somewhere else after one of the older quarterbacks aren't there anymore. Caden, what were you going to say there?
I actually really like the signing. Of course, we all know last year that he led the league in passing yards, but he also led the league with 30 interceptions. If he cuts down on those, he's an elite quarterback. He's one of the best in the league. He has the chance to learn behind Drew Brees, who is one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, in my opinion. Drew Brees can teach him how to cut down on the interceptions. And remember, he had a LASIK eye surgery, so he can see good now.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure how much that's going to do for him, but, I mean, hey, whatever's going to make you not throw 30 interceptions in a season.
you never know.
I guess
But
I'm down with that.
I think he can be a pretty solid successor to Drew Brees. And he's very familiar with the NFC South because he came from the Bucs.
Do you think he can be the successor to Drew Brees in New Orleans?
I think he can.
No, absolutely not.
Why,
Why
Croc?
not?
I mean, I just don't feel like Jameis has proven enough to be a great successor for New Orleans. Because, I mean, New Orleans has always had that win now mentality. And I feel like they would definitely be more prone to get a quarterback who has shown that he won't throw interceptions in game. So if Jameis doesn't get reps to at least show that he's improved, then I don't see him being the successor there.
Well, see, this can be a situation like the Saints and Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, it's not the same situation, but I mean, both of those guys were quarterbacks who, their original teams gave up on them for, very different reasons. But coming into New Orleans and learning from arguably the most accurate quarterback of all time in Drew Brees, I mean, you can't ask for a better mentor in trying to cut down your interceptions. And I mean, like Caden said, he cuts down on the interceptions. He's an elite quarterback in the league. He led the league in passing yards, and he threw, north of 30 touchdowns.
33.
Yeah, so I don't see – I mean, if he improves and he can compete with the other guys, fighting to be the next quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, I don't see why he can't be the next quarterback.
If anything, I think it's a good experiment for the Saints. I feel like I've said this a couple times now, but just like if he has the opportunity and if he actually learned something from Drew Brees, why couldn't he be the starter? Like, what if he proves that he has cut down, even like just cutting down to like 15 interceptions? I mean, that'd be a monumental improvement, I think. What do you think about that, Ty? Like, if he cuts down by 10 or 15 interceptions, does that change your mind? Ooh, I think it's
Ty, your mic is
Ty.
Yeah, we can't hear you. All right, well, I'll just voice the one gripe that I have about this. The Saints cap situation is horrid right now. I mean, we are not in a good spot. We're bottom of the league in cap space right now. And to go out and sign Jameis Winston like this, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense from a business standpoint. But I mean, overall, I like the signing. It's just like, we got to win now. I mean, we failed the last 3 years. And I mean, off of just heartbreaking losses, and we're digging ourselves into a deeper hole. And if we don't win this year or next year, then it's not going to be good for us.
Yeah,
I feel like the Falcons have done a great job restructuring contracts to at least make our cap space more manageable and free up space for the future. And I feel like the Falcons, I mean, it's so hard to tell like where we are as a team right now, because we could very easily be a strong team and compete for the division, but we could also, blow up like we did last year with, almost the same roster that we had. and, have a terrible losing streak and just have another 7-9 season where we're just mediocre. So, I mean, it's been hard for me to tell where we're at. I really hope that we can improve and not have another, third straight 7-9 season. But yeah, I don't know.
Before the season last year, I was completely expecting the Falcons to be a Super Bowl contender because of the talent of the roster we have. But of course, we went 1-7 in the first half of the season. We did end on a hot streak. I don't remember what the number was, but we ended the year really hot. I think we can carry that momentum into next year. I think our roster is better than it was last year.
Do you think Dan Quinn allows y'all to succeed?
Well, I feel like he made a smart move, taking away the defensive coordinator duties from himself and putting it to the linebackers coach, because our defense really improved in the second half after he gave up his defensive coordinator duties. So we've kept the same defensive coordinator that we had in the second half of the season last year. So it'll be interesting to see how we can do with him having a full season as defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think that was definitely part of the turnaround.
I don't know if I necessarily trust Dan Quinn in that, to run the Falcons as an organization, because I feel like his first couple of years he could kind of coast on what they already had built, and now that I kind of see what he's done to improve the team, I feel like he hasn't done that much, and I feel like if anything, the Falcons have kind of been let down by some kind of abysmal coaching, and I feel like that could really be improved. And I feel like if the Falcons aren't good next year, then it's time to move on from Dan Quinn and maybe start looking for a Matt Ryan replacement as well.
I completely agree.
Well, with that being said, regardless of what happens, next season is going to be super exciting, and we're all looking forward to it, especially to cover it, which is going to be really fun. But that's going to do it for episode 3 of the Final Drive podcast. And we all appreciate y'all listening. Follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify and Anchor, and basically where you can listen to podcasts. Everybody stay safe during the quarantine, and we'll see y'all this week for episode 4. See ya.
See ya.